Hello. Okay, it says we're checking connection. I'm just waiting for Danielle to join us. I know that I normally come live every Tuesdays and Thursdays, but a little bit different this week. A couple of things going on. It always takes a second. Hey, Danielle. Okay, hopefully no issues. Oh, I hope this works.
Hi.
Yay, it works. You look beautiful. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you so much for accommodating. I was just saying, I normally do these every Tuesdays and Thursdays, but little change of schedule with the election going on tomorrow too. All good.
No, thank you. Yeah, I was gonna ask. I'm like, I saw the live and then it ended, so I thought, let me double check.
Oh, no worries.
There's still some glitches in technology going on. So,
I know, right? Every single time. So I'm just like, oh my goodness. I saw that they released a new feature though, that you can actually save lives after they're done. So they don't disappear
um,
on you anymore. Because sometimes I would repost it and then we'd have to do the live over again. Excuse me, because it wouldn't save. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, finally, I feel relief.
yeah, I save them as the IGTVs now, and I'm hoping they're saving. So I go back and I check. I'm like, yeah, I think it's still there.
Oh, nice. Very good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me this evening. Hope everyone is doing well. So I'm live here in the UK right now, and I'm live with Danielle in sunny California. Super jealous. Anyways,
It's pretty sunny. I'm not
I
gonna
know,
lie.
right? It's like winter weather here. It's like I'm legit wearing coats and stuff indoors. So, but anyways,
It's 54 degrees, so if that makes you feel any better.
oh, okay, that's not too bad.
Yeah. So it's cold, but the sun's out.
Yeah, exactly. Well, anyways, thank you again for joining me here for another episode of these boss interviews. I normally have these every Tuesdays and Thursdays, but little change of schedule this week. But I'm super excited to be introducing and featuring, more incredible individuals to be able to deliver as much value as we can for all of you professionals and entrepreneurs out there. So I'm super excited about today's guest. I'd love to introduce you all to the lovely Danielle. She's one of my mastermind sisters. So Danielle
Yeah.
is a multifaceted entrepreneur, spiritual advisor, and founder of Divine Radiant Living, a platform where she integrates her specialty as a business mentor, medical intuitive medium, healer, and Reiki Master Teacher into each session. She utilizes a holistic approach to achieving mind, body, spirit, balance, and alignment across all parts of our life, from the personal to the professional. Through her personal practice and teachings, Danielle customizes each session, acting as a guide and a mirror to help heal the deeper traumas and fractured parts so that you can finally live a life with clarity, confidence, purpose, and, lest we forget, a handy toolbox of all of life's adventures. Prior to following her calling in spiritual healing, she worked for nearly 15 years in Escrow, both as a small business owner and within the corporate framework after selling her family business. Her experience in business ownership, management, and real estate investments offers a unique depth and breadth and perspective to each client, student, and mentee. She prides herself in being able to seamlessly blend and bridge the practical and the ethereal and the scientific with the spiritual. Currently, she resides in Chatsworth, California with her husband, two daughters, and two dogs, and she leads in-person and distance sessions from her home office. So thank you so much for being here today. You have such an impressive bio. I'm like, super pumped.
It's funny because I've been doing this now for almost 3 years in this space that I forget what that life was like. And then I start talking to different professionals and I realize how important it is that we do integrate
Mm-hmm.
because you can have a multi-million dollar company and still not be feeling like you're
Mm-hmm.
doing your best as a business owner. And that can translate in your personal life. So it's important to bridge the two.
Mm-hmm. I love that just because it's just like I don't think if anybody ever makes that connection sometimes. And it's also too like on the other side, you can get caught up in your identity, right? When you're not just that person or that person, you're like this person, right?
Hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I dealt with too, was being caught up in that identity of this is what I am. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
business owner. I'm working between 60 to 100 hours a week, depending on what it was looking like. And then you leave, and you start to question, wait, who am I then? Because I'm not doing this anymore. So how do I view myself? How do I think about myself?
Yeah, no, totally. Well, with that in mind, can you tell us briefly about your journey and how you got started? How did you land in this
Yeah.
space?
So in this space, since I was a kid, I was always very spiritual. I always had different little abilities that other people on my mom's side of the family have had. But as I got older and I saw not everyone did it, you want to be part of the crowd. You don't want to stand out in a different way. I kind of pushed them all aside and went down the normal traditional path. But what normally happens is when you're not living your life as who you're meant to be, you will start getting signs. There will start to be different life events that occur that push you to help move you and guide you into what you're really supposed to be doing. And so once I was pregnant with my second child and was tapping more into my spiritual life, I'd already done yoga teacher training. I was seeing my own Reiki mentor in my business, well, as a business professional in real estate. And I just realized, like, this isn't it. I'm not happy anymore. And this is not the kind of balance I want to see in my life. I'm going to have a second child. I want to keep my marriage healthy. I want to take care of my children. I want to take care of myself. I'd had different health issues. So I came to that, that decision to just give up that entire business, and to step away from that industry. Well, to step away from the career. I still dabble in real estate as a property manager, but other than that, I'm not doing the kind of work I was doing before. And I just thrust myself into this world, learning as much as I could, reading books, going to seminars, and honestly working on my own personal development and looking at myself, how I was as a business owner, how I am as myself with interacting with my husband, as a mother, as a friend, as someone just in a public forum when you meet strangers. And by working through the layers of that, it helped me show up more here in this space.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, Michelle. Yeah, just because it's like, as you were sharing that, I'm just like, life is not all about the hustle. There's like way more to life than, everybody makes it out to be. How did you find the transition from corporate to, where you are now? It's a very loaded question.
It was challenging and rewarding. Challenging in the sense, when you're used to the hustle, you identify with it. That's actually how you become more comfortable, is living in that dramatic, fast-paced life, right? And I was working in downtown LA, commuting, taking 2.5, 3 hours a day with commute time.
Oh my gosh.
And so then, right? So all of a sudden, I quit that, and I remember sitting at home. I'd already done the dishes. I was like eating my lunch and just sitting at the table after 2 weeks going, oh wow, yeah, this is so peaceful. This is the life, right? Because I hadn't yet considered what my identity and my life were going to be like. So it was challenging in adjusting, but where it was really the challenge was a reward, is that it forced me to take action. It forced me to think about, well, what is it I want in my life? I quit because that wasn't working. So I had to take an inventory, right? You do that in your business, whether it's, physical products or services. You have to take an inventory of what's working and what's not working. And so the transition was challenging, trying to figure it out, shifting my identity from, even just mother of one to now about to be a mother of two, and now self-employed, and figuring out what does that look like, and trying to bridge all of that. So yeah, but it was amazing. I would not change it. All the ups and downs took me to where I needed to be today, and what I needed to learn to then help other entrepreneurs as they're transitioning out of the corporate framework into their own business, or just transitioning from one company into another company. It's all been very much needed and just important.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. Hey, Keisha. Hey, Julianne. So how would you describe the work that you do now? Because I know that, at least for me, like I know I totally put myself in that category where I didn't know too much about the spiritual world, you know, like that whole space. And I always like kind of called it like the woo-woo stuff, right? Until I
Yeah.
started like, you know, started to like feel into it a little bit more and starting to like, you know, be more aware of it. You know, I'm just like, oh my gosh, why wasn't I paying attention to this like sooner?
Well, I think now, I think everyone's spirituality looks different. So, right, you know, what I do now, I say I'm like a spiritual advisor, because even if we're talking about your business, and I've worked with people to help them excel their business, right? Multi-figures to where they're at. And so what we're doing is really looking at our own self. What do I believe in? And at the core, we should be believing in ourselves and what we're doing. What's our mission? What's our purpose? And so I love getting to integrate my belief in universe, or whatever you call it, my belief in myself, my belief in other people, and my faith and trust in other people, and how I'm going to achieve my professional goals along with my personal goals. So when you think about your spirituality, it's really thinking about who you are and your connection to yourself, your connection to the world outside of yourself, whether that includes a God or religious framework or not, that's up to you. And so when you start to connect yourself with other people, and I know that you'll hear the term of like a raise your vibration, and really it's hard to really think about that from a logical perspective. If you're coming from a business framework, you're like, what does that mean? Am I hitting a bell? Like,
exactly.
Is there like a frequency, a sound vibration? But really what you're doing is you're allowing yourself to stay connected and also know when it's time to disconnect and detach, so that you're not allowing others' opinions, others' words, others' actions, others' their own, you know, bad energy, like if they're in a bad mood, to affect you and where you're heading in your business and in your personal life. And that includes friends. It's not just on a business side of coworkers you might work with, or the boss, you know, that mean boss who just doesn't get you. This is also about who you surround yourself with in your personal life.
Yeah, no, totally.
So it's all connected.
It's that holistic success, right?
It is, and that's where you're looking at everything as a whole. You know, we are an extension of our business.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say is the favorite part about the work that you do?
I love, well, I love working with people in general. I think I was not meant to just like be behind a computer screen. Totally. I love the interaction, and I like seeing people's growth. I love seeing them trust themselves and go, you know, it's funny you said that in my session, because I was thinking about that. Yeah. Oftentimes with our dreams and where we're trying to make these dreams into a reality, we stop ourselves. Our mind stops us. You know, our limiting beliefs or what other people have told us is a good idea or not a good idea stops us from doing something that inside we know is our calling, even if it doesn't make sense to everyone else. You know, I've had my husband say several times, like, yeah, I don't fully understand that. I don't necessarily agree with where you're going. And then it turns out really well. And he's like, oh, well, good for you. You know, because in his mind, he sees it from his own framework. So when I get to see people developing their own trust and faith in themselves, when I see my clients developing their own intuition, like, you know, I had this gut feeling and I just decided to run with it, and it turned into this amazing opportunity. That is the beautiful thing to see, is working with people to help them learn to trust themselves more, love themselves more, and work on the areas, you know, I call them healing. You're healing those past traumas and dramas so that you can move forward without that attachment. So that, you know, when I talk about my mentality and identity was as that hustle, 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 working all the time, you can shift into the identity you've been really looking to be, so that now that was a part of your life, you learned from it, but now you're doing something that is more aligned, right? And in our mastermind, aligned is the big word.
Exactly. No, thank you for sharing that. Why do you feel like it's important for people to be in touch with their intuition, especially, you know, in business?
So I will say in general, most business owners I know naturally practice their intuition with their business, right? You just have this feeling like, oh, I just shouldn't hire that person. It may look great on paper, but you're like,
you just know, yeah.
right? Like there's something there. And we've had that time where, I mean, I had it multiple times where, in the past business and even in this business, you choose to take on a project or a client that deep down you're like, I don't know if I should do this. Something, no, but you end up doing it and you learn sometimes the hard way. Like that. Okay. So that's what was, okay. My intuition was telling me it wasn't going to quite pan out. So when you're in touch with your intuition, you're really in touch with yourself. You're saying, I trust myself. You're saying, I know what is best to do for my business. And it may not always have a logical framework, but I know it's going to turn out and be exactly what I needed it to be in that moment. And if you don't follow your intuition, there may be setbacks and some challenges, but the idea there too is if you've been disconnected and you have mistakes, you learn from them.
Yeah, exactly.
You learn from them and you remember. This is one of the things I tell people, remember that feeling you had, whether it was good or bad, that like, ooh, I want to do that. Go with it. Yeah. And if it went well, remember that feeling. If you had a feeling and you went against it, and something happened that was not healthy or helpful for your business or for your personal life, remember that feeling because we're constantly receiving messages around us. Our intuition has a scientific base and background to it. Our brain only processes a certain amount of the environment within our receptor field. So we see our eyes like this, but we know we can also see things in the periphery. We're not processing it. We're not actively looking, right? We're not like insects or certain other creatures that have their eyes here, so they're seeing 360. So what happens is our brain is actually taking in all the sensory and processing it. So there are some scientists that believe that our intuition is really a certain knowing we have based on what we've processed from our environment trying to help us get a message.
That's so clever.
Right. So as a business owner, when you are tapped in your intuition, you are tapping into all these other things within your business environment that maybe you're not actively focused on, but they're there like, oh, hey, look at this. You see this advertisement? This advertisement is going to inspire you to do something. Even though you're not quite like, ooh, look at that advertisement. There's just something off there. And maybe there's words, something you hear that inspires you to take action in a different direction that's going to help you with your business. So the more connected you are, the more you're having faith and trust in yourself.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I'm
the
so
more
glad
you're
that
seeing where vision's going to go.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you made that distinction too, just because I was like, there is science behind a lot of this too. And and I remember something that you had said to me like a long time ago, I don't know if you remember, but when you were talking about patterns, right? Like you start to notice patterns, don't ignore the patterns, like start to pay attention to that and just let some of that in. No, it's awesome. So, how like, especially like, with right now, we're in uncertain times. I feel like a lot of us are feeling like some serious social media fatigue, and especially with more of us being online, like everyone's being zoomed out. Where do you think this really comes from? And like, what are your tips to, help get over it or, like at least take the breaks and make like self-care more of a priority?
I think a big part of it is, we only have so much energy we start with every day, right? We're raising our daughters and there's a book about filling your bucket. You fill your bucket. And if your bucket's empty, right, we act differently. So right now we wake up with a certain amount of energy in our bucket. And where we put our energy and where we put our attention and our time is going to affect whether we're going to feel energized at the end of the day or fatigued. And when you're on social media, especially think of like Instagram, where you are just seeing scrolls and scrolls of feeds, right? It's a lot. That's a lot that your brain is processing on a scientific level, neurological level. You're processing all that. You're taking in a lot. And so you are overwhelming your senses, whether it's with Zoom, IG, Voxer, WhatsApp, whatever people are doing. You are overwhelming your senses. And what happens too is you're seeing so much of what other people are doing. You're not focusing on what you want to be doing or what you, quote unquote, should be doing. So it's just too much. It's sensory overload. So it's important to know, when you're starting your day, if you tend to get down that wormhole,
Yeah,
like,
the
oh, I want to
infinite
get
scroll.
inspired, let me watch. And you can even look at amazing accounts on Instagram or anywhere else, or reading tons of articles, but it can be too much. Even if it's wonderful and inspiring, it can be a little overwhelming because there's too much information. And then you start questioning and doubting, like, oh, should I be doing that? Is that what I should be doing? And so this is all this stuff that's happening in process and without us even being actively aware. So we're tired, we're exhausted, and then we lose that connection with ourselves. Like, oh, I just wanted to write a post and wanted to be inspired.
Yep.
Now I'm not sure if this is what I should be doing.
Exactly.
Yep. I think too, in this time, depending on, where you're living and the framework of your environment outside of yourselves, if everything you're doing is more online, then there's a sense too that we're trying to get connected in ways that are maybe not best suited for us, because we're not maybe going outside and talking to people. Or for people now working from home, as opposed to when they were in their office, they could chat with people, get it out. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to go back into my office or back to my cubicle, back to my desk. Now you're just stuck at your desk. Right? And I say stuck because there's this sense of, well, I'm working from home, I can just get this all done.
Yeah.
You can stay here and work it all out. But you end up in this hamster wheel where you're just doing the same thing over and over again. So, I think
you probably end up working more.
So one tip would be to allow yourself, to put a timer on any social media or online browsing you're doing, because you can go down that rabbit hole really quickly. You have things on your phone settings. I have it now where it's called the wind down service.
Oh, nice.
On my Droid, my Android, my Samsung. And so from 10 to 7, it actually goes into a grayscale. Nice. So there's no color. And I can't tap into certain apps unless I have to bypass it. Oh, yeah. So there's different things that we can use with the blessing of technology to help us disconnect from that and connect more with ourselves. It can be literally getting up every hour to 90 minutes for 10, 15 minutes to just walk around. It's allowing yourself to take the space too. And that was something I was thinking about. It's like creating the space at least once a day to really think about, what was my goal here? What was my vision for today? What's my intention for this week or this month? And is this actually helping me achieve what I want? Right? It's taking a look at everything you're doing and going, is this actually helping me, or is this a distraction? Is this me procrastinating? And it's about being honest and real with yourself too. You're like, oh yeah, I don't want to do that, so I'm going on social media for 20 minutes. Exactly. Be honest about it.
No, definitely. There's a lot of like a secondary gain that you can get from some of those things. Keisha says she definitely needs to set timers for social media.
Yeah. And like I told you, we were talking, like, I try not to go online anymore on the weekends, or I might just scroll quickly or maybe see someone's stories. But I really try to not be too active, because that's my time to reconnect with myself and my family. My kids know, like, they call me out. Mommy, you're on your phone again.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, was that a client? And so, it's a reminder of really focusing on what's important in your life.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so I know we're running a little bit over on time, but how are you on time? Are you good if we go a little bit over? Okay, cool. I always want to make sure just be considerate of your time too, because this is so good. Okay, so I know that as we need to connect with ourselves more, what 3 tips do you have for individuals to show up more authentically online? Because I know that there are some of those days where it's like, oh, I have to be consistent, but I just don't want to post, or I don't want to go live. What are your tips around that?
So I think the first one is being honest with yourself, right? And really being honest about how you're feeling, why you feel you have to be on when you don't want to be on, and maybe even using that as content for yourself. Like, oh, you know what? I'm going to talk about this. Because invariably in our business, we all go through very similar struggles, if not the same exact thing.
Exactly, yep.
And so having someone else share it, right? is so important. So that goes into vulnerability. You have to be vulnerable in your business. I know there are a lot of successful entrepreneurs that have this very strong, powerful presence.
Very polished.
Very polished. They talk about their mistakes, but you're like, but you're perfect
I know,
now.
right?
Right?
Can't relate.
Yeah, or people are trying to become that person as opposed to being themselves. So if you want to be authentic and you want people in turn, coworkers, employees, clients to be authentic with you, you have to be vulnerable with them. You have to create the space, right, for them to mirror it back to you. So vulnerability is huge. Being willing to do something that's going to screw you up, but you just have to be honest and share. And then I think the last one's going to be trusting yourself. Really, we doubt ourselves so much as business owners. Am I doing the right thing? We hire tons of people. Maybe they tell us something. Here's how you're going to make 6 figures. You can do exactly what that person is saying and still feel unfulfilled because it doesn't feel quite right for you. It's not aligned.
I'm so glad you said that.
So if you can trust yourself, and you can hire all the people, but say, I like that, but that's not quite how I want to do it because that doesn't feel right to me, then you're going to end up on top. You're going to end up doing well at your own pace, at what feels right for you, and seeing like, okay, I've created the financial wealth and success on my own terms. That's the whole thing. It has to be on your terms, not trying to be like someone else, but being yourself. And showing other people how they can create success through being themselves.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful. And it goes back to everything we've been talking about, like, trusting yourself, that intuitive empowerment, right? I think it's so powerful. And I think a lot of people worry a lot about what other people will think. I read something where people spend too much time thinking about what other people are thinking to try to look good or to try to avoid looking bad, right? When all in all, it's like, just be yourself, just be real, be raw, like be vulnerable. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, a couple other questions. Do you feel like there's such thing as work-life balance?
I do, but I think we have in our mind that it's going to look a certain way. It's going to be like this much time on work, this much time in my personal life. And it's never 50-50. I read a book by Shonda Rhimes, and it was amazing.
Shonda
She spent a
Rhimes.
whole year saying yes. She would normally say no to everything, and she spent a whole year saying yes. And she talked about in this book, and this is where it really touched on me. I don't think I hadn't quit my job yet, and it was like so empowering. She said while she was writing all these things for the sitcoms for ABC, Grey's Anatomy, all the stuff, that there were some days she was more mom than businesswoman, and other days that she was more businesswoman than mom. And it's going to always look different. It's going to fluctuate every day. And that's part of the balance. It's where you're being called to serve more. So you can have work-life balance, but to know it's going to look different. It's not going to be perfect. It's going to be a little messy. And what you can do to help yourself achieve more balance is creating a supportive environment. Whether it's through friendships, family, babysitters, nannies, the right work team around you. And that's going to help you create balance, but it's not going to look perfect. And you just have to flow with it.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree. That's a great advice. I feel like I've had that question submitted a couple times before these interviews, and it's always good to just get the different perspectives about it. But I agree, like 100%, because everyone thinks
and to also understand with your balance, like define for yourself. What does balance look like for me? What does it feel like for me? And then to evaluate, is this achieving that? Am I getting closer to this, or am I getting further away from it?
Yeah, absolutely. There was like this whole concept I read somewhere about like the 4 burners, where you've got like, your significant other, family, friends, but also like, your social life too. It's like, you're not going to have all 4 of those at the same time. Like, there's no way.
No, unless you can like create a 3D hologram of yourself.
Exactly.
That would be wonderful. If someone could get on top of that, that'd be great.
Totally. Very good. Well, last question. So I always love to end these Q&As with action steps. And as we are in uncertain times right now, what advice or action steps do you have for professionals or business owners to adapt and overcome, or as it relates to anything that we've talked about today?
I think for me, it was creating this space every day, empty space
Mm-hmm.
in your calendar for 30 minutes at least, so that you can reevaluate where you are every day. How am I feeling today? Is there something I really needed to get done that I didn't get done?
Mm-hmm.
It's creating the distance and the separation to see how's this day going? What do I need more of? What do I need less of? Right? And when you create that empty space, some people call it meditation,
Mm-hmm.
right? When you create that empty space where you're not taking calls, you're not looking at anything, it's just quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you have your nice, soothing music in the background. Everything's shut off. You can start to also connect with amazing ideas that you wouldn't have thought of when you have the blinders on and you're just working because you're shutting it all out. You're only focusing on this tunnel vision. So to create the space daily to reflect, to reconfirm your mission and your purpose, like, why am I doing all this? And again, is this helping me get to where I want to go? But if all you're doing is spinning your wheels day after day after day, you're not even allowing in the opportunity to receive ideas of what could be inspiring for your business or for you. And you're also not taking the time to quiet your brain and your body down to just, reset and restore your rhythm. Like, I'm going to take some down, kind of like quiet time for kids. You take the quiet time so you can keep trudging the rest of the day or the rest of the week.
I love that. I think that's so
So just
powerful.
getting it on your calendar every day for 30 minutes, even if it's like in chunks, if you can in chunks.
I'm totally going to do it. I hope that some of you tuning in are going to do it as well. I think it's definitely going to be really powerful because it's just like you said, it's like reset and recalibrating your rhythm. That's going to be like really good. It could be a total game changer too.
Yes, I mean, honestly, when with our past business where we were handling and managing 9 figures.
Wow.
Having that daily space, and for me would be between 30 to 45 minutes of doing nothing. And I know I'd see some of my employees kind of, my coworkers looking at me like, but, they knew I was the most centered and grounded. They can come to me with problems. I wouldn't lash out at them. I was emotionally regulated. Having that was very beneficial in growing my business. Hey, I have this idea. I'd run it with a partner. I don't know about that. You do it. And so I do it, right? It just gives you this creativity that helps inspire you and keep your business from being dull and boring.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it gets you off that hamster wheel too, of just like constant, like repeat and that cycle.
Absolutely.
Very good. I've always been super inspired by you, and I was like super nervous about this interview too. I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm like a little starstruck moment.
Well, I love seeing what you're doing. Everything, I hope the people that work with you know just how incredible you are and what you bring to the table and how you're helping to serve them grow their business.
Thank you. I feel the same way about you, girl. So well, thank you so much for just sharing your story and your advice on everything. This has been awesome. And so for people with, questions or interested in learning more or like wanting to work with you, how can they get in touch?
Because I've been working on being more present in the real life, I do recommend emailing me at danielle@divineradiantliving.com. I do see those notifications on my phone. I had turned off my IG notifications because I just kept going on.
All good.
But you can follow me and message me on my Instagram, Divine Radiant Living. And yeah, I look forward to connecting with people. I'm happy to answer questions and give free resources and just help people get back on their track for their lives.
Amazing. I recommend that everybody takes you up on that offer. So thanks again. And everyone, thank you for tuning in or catching the replay. And so as always, let me know your thoughts and feedback, or if you'd like me to have Danielle on again sometime. Any final thoughts from you, Danielle?
Enjoy the outside at some point. Go outside today. Even if it's 9 o'clock at night, just go outside for like 10 minutes just to change in scenery with everything going on.
Definitely. Thank you. Well, thanks again for being on today. We'll definitely catch up with you soon. But everyone, I hope everyone has a really great day or good evening wherever you are in the world. Sounds good. All right. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.